welcome to the show where I eat a sandwich. But really, my name is John Voth. This is Kong's Corner, and we're reading Harry Potter. I'm reading it for the first time. Never read it before. We're in the 7th book. We've been doing this for about 7 or 6 months. Please don't spoil anything in the chat or in the comments, because would love to experience it for the very first time ever. We are just going to jump right in. We're going to jump right into it. Last time, the Golden Trio, Ron, Harry, and Hermione, pulled off a heist. They went into the Ministry for Magic. They basically stole the locket. Well, first of all, Harry knocked out Umbridge and Sphinx. What's his name? Parallax? Sphinx? Something like that. Knocked them out, took the locket, and then freed the slaves of the baddies, about 30 half muggles, and got them out of the ministry. It was pretty crazy. But as they were leaving, something happened to Hermione. She got nabbed, and then Harry got knocked out. So no idea where it's going to go. Pretty excited for this chapter and what's going to happen. Happy birthday tomorrow, Lucille. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. It's your birthday, Lucille. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. It's your birthday, Lucille. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Okay, let's get started, shall we? Chapter 14, The Thief. Harry opened his eyes and was dazzled by gold and green. He had no idea what had happened. He only knew that he was lying on what seemed to be leaves and twigs. Struggling to draw breath into lungs that felt flattened, he blinked and realized that the gaudy glare was sunlight streaming through a canopy of leaves far above him. Then an object twitched close to his face. He pushed himself onto his hands and knees, ready to face some small, fierce creature, but saw that the object was Ron's foot. Looking around, Harry saw that they and Hermione were lying on a forest floor, apparently alone. Yay! Good! She's okay! I'm happy about that. It's great. Yaxley, that was the name. Yaxley. Thank you, Calvin. Glad it's helping out. Harry's first thought was of the Forbidden Forest, and for a moment, even though he knew how foolish and dangerous it would be for them to appear in the grounds of Hogwarts, his heart leapt at the thought of sneaking through the trees to Hagrid's hut. However, in the few moments it took for Ron to give a low groan and Harry to start crawling towards him, he realized that this was not the Forbidden Forest. The trees looked younger. They were more widely spaced, the ground clearer. He met Hermione, also on her hands and knees, at Ron's head. The moment his eyes fell upon Ron, all other concerns fled Harry's mind, for blood drenched the whole of Ron's left side, and his face stood out, grayish-white, against the leaf-strewn earth. The polyjuice potion was wearing off now. Ron was halfway between Cattermole and himself in appearance, his hair turning redder and redder as his face drained of the little color it had left. "What's happened to him?" "Spinched," said Hermione, splinched, her fingers already busy at Ron's sleeve, where the blood was wettest and darkest. Harry watched, horrified, as she tore open Ron's shirt. He had always thought of splinching as something comical, but this? Splinched? Do we know what that is already? His insides crawled unpleasantly as Hermione laid bare Ron's upper arm, where a great chunk of flesh was missing, scooped cleanly away as though by a knife. Ah! What? I hope he doesn't, isn't permanently damaged. "Harry, quickly, in my bag. There's a small bottle labeled Essence of Dittany. Bag. Right." Harry sped to the place where Hermione had landed, seized the tiny beaded bag, and thrust his hand inside it. At once, object after object began presenting itself to his touch. He felt the leather spines of books, woolly sleeves of jumpers, heels of shoes. Quickly! He grabbed his wand from the ground and pointed it into the depths of the magical bag. Accio Dittany! A small brown bottle zoomed out of the bag. He caught it and hastened back to Hermione and Ron, whose eyes were now half closed, strips of white eyeball all that was visible between his lids. Okay, this chapter is starting off very intensely. I hope Ron stays okay. It's when apparition goes wrong. Oh, right, it's being splinched. When apparating and a part is left behind. Ooh, that sucks. That sucks. He's fainted, said Hermione, who was also rather pale. She no longer looked like Mafalda, though her hair was still grey in places. Unstop it for me, Harry. My hands are shaking. Harry wrenched the stopper off the little bottle. Hermione took it and poured 3 drops of the potion on the bleeding wound. Greenish smoke billowed upwards, and when it had cleared, Harry saw that the bleeding had stopped. The wound now looked several days old. New skin stretched over what had just been open flesh. Wow, said Harry. It's all I feel safe doing, said Hermione shakily. There are spells that would put him completely right, but I daren't try in case I do them wrong and cause more damage. He's lost so much blood already. How did he get hurt? I mean, Harry shook his head, trying to clear it, to make sense of whatever had just taken place. Why are we here? I thought we were going back to Grimmauld Place. Oh, my neck! Ow, my neck! Oh, that killed. Oh. Jeez. Hermione took a deep breath. She looked close to tears. Harry, I don't think we're going to be able to go back there. What do you... As we disapparated, he actually caught hold of me, and I couldn't get rid of him. He was too strong, and he was still holding on when we arrived at Grimmauld Place, and then, well, I think he must have seen the door and thought we were stopping there, so he slackened his grip, and I managed to shake him off, and I brought us here instead. But then, where's he? Hang on. You don't mean he's at Grimmauld Place? He can't get in there. Her eyes sparkled with unshed tears as she nodded. Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Remember to like the stream, please. Very helpful. Harry, I think he can. I forced him to let go with the revulsion jinx, but I'd already taken him inside the Fidelius Charm's protection. Since Dumbledore died, we're secret keepers, so I've given him the secret. Haven't I? There was no pretending. Harry was sure she was right. It was a serious blow. If Yaxley could now get inside the house, there was no way that they could return. Even now, he could be bringing other Death Eaters in there by apparition. Gloomy and oppressive though the house was, it had been their one safe refuge. Even now that creature was so much happier and friendlier, a kind of home. With a twinge of regret that had nothing to do with food, Harry imagined the house elf busying himself over the steak and kidney pie that Harry, Ron, and Hermione would never eat. Harry, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be stupid. It wasn't your fault. If anything, it was mine. Harry put his hand in his pocket and drew out Mad Eye's eye. Hermione recoiled, looking horrified. John, do you suggest we smash the like button or merely caress it gently? A mixture of both. Yeah, this really does suck. Creature's gonna... Oh no, they're probably going to... Hopefully they don't torture a creature to find out where they would go or something like that. Oh, they probably will. They'll probably torture a creature. So he takes out Mad Eye's eye. Hermione recoiled, looking horrified. Umbridge had stuck it to her office door to spy on people. I couldn't leave it there, but that's how they knew they were intruders. Before Hermione could answer, Ron groaned and opened his eyes. Oh, good. He was still grey, and his face glistened with sweat. How do you feel? Hermione whispered. Lousy, croaked Ron, wincing as he felt his injured arm. Where are we? In the woods where they held the Quidditch World Cup, said Hermione. I wanted somewhere enclosed, under cover, and this was... The first place you thought of, Harry finished for her, glancing around at the apparently deserted glade. He could not help remembering what had happened the last time they had apparated to the first place Hermione thought of, how Death Eaters had found them within minutes. Had it been legitimacy? Did Voldemort or his henchmen know, even now, where Hermione had taken them? Do you reckon we should move on? Ron asked Harry. And Harry could tell by the look on Ron's face that he was thinking the same. I don't know. Ron still looked pale and clammy. He had made no attempt to sit up, and it looked as though he was too weak to do so. The prospect of him moving was daunting. "Let's stay here for now," Harry said. Looking relieved, Hermione sprang to her feet. "Where are you going?" asked Ron. "If we're staying, we should put some protective enchantments around the place," she replied. "On the ball!" she replied, and raising her wand, she began to walk in a wide circle around Harry and Ron, murmuring incantations as she went. Harry saw little disturbances in the surrounding air. It was as if Hermione had cast a heat haze upon their clearing. "Salvio Hexia, Protego Totalum, Repello Muggletum, Mufflieto." You could get out of the tent. You could get out the tent, Harry. "Tent? In the bag! In the... of course," said Harry. He did not bother to grope inside at this time, but used another summoning charm. The tent emerged in a lumpy mass of canvas, rope, and poles. Harry recognized it, partly because of the smell of cats, as the same tent in which they had slept on the night of the Quidditch World Cup. Who the hell is that one person who dislikes the video every day? I don't know, but it is kind of funny. But please don't do it. But it's always one person. "I thought this belonged to the bloke Perkins at the Ministry," he asked, starting to disentangle the tent pegs. "Apparently he didn't want it back. His lumbago's so bad," said Hermione, now performing complicated figures of 8 movements with her wand. "So Ron's dad said that I could borrow it. Erecto!" she added, pointing her wand at the misshapen canvas, which in one fluid motion rose into the air and settled, fully constructed, onto the ground before Harry, out of whose startled hands a tent-peg soared to land with a final thud at the end of a guy rope. What does that mean? The rope's like, "Hey, I'll tie something up for you." It's funny if one person does it, and only one person. Yeah, exactly. "Cave inimicum," Hermione finished with a skyward flourish. "That's as much as I can do. At the very least, we should know they're coming. I can't guarantee it will keep out Volt..." "Don't say the name!" Ron cut across her, his voice harsh. Harry and Hermione looked at each other. "I'm sorry," Ron said, moaning a little as he raised himself to look at them. "It feels like Jinx or something. Can't we call him you-know-who, please?" "Dumbledore said fear of a name," began Harry. "In case you haven't noticed, mate, calling you-know-who by his name didn't do Dumbledore much good in the end," Ron snapped back. Just show you-know-who some respect, will you?" "Respect?" Harry repeated, but Hermione shot him a warning look. Apparently, he was not to argue with Ron while the latter was in such a weakened condition. You know, maybe Ron has a point. Harry and Hermione half-carried, half-dragged Ron through the entrance of the tent. The interior was exactly as Harry remembered it. A small flat, complete with bathroom and tiny kitchen. Oh, man. He shoved aside an old armchair and lowered Ron carefully onto the lower berth of a bunk bed. Even this very short journey had turned Ron whiter still, pretty weak. And once they had settled him on the mattress, he closed his eyes again and did not speak for a while. "I'll make some tea," said Hermione breathlessly, pulling kettle and mugs from the depths of her bag and heading towards the kitchen. Harry found the hot drink as welcome as the fire whiskey had been on the night that Mad Eye had died. It seemed to burn away a little of the fear fluttering in his chest. After a minute or two, Ron broke the silence. "What do you reckon happened to the Catamoles?" "With any luck, they'll have got away," said Hermione, clutching her hot mug for comfort. "As long as Mr. Catamole had his wits about him, he'll have transported Mrs. Catamole by sidelong apparition, and they'll be fleeing the country right now with their children. That's what Harry told her to do." "Blimey. I hope they escaped," said Ron, leaning back on his pillows. The tea seemed to be doing him good. A little of his color had returned. I didn't get the feeling Reg Catamole was all that quick-witted, though. The way everyone was talking to me when I was him. God, I hope they made it. They both end up in Azkaban because of us. Right. Harry looked over at Hermione, and the question he had been about to ask about whether Mrs. Cattermole's lack of a wand would prevent her apparating alongside her husband died in his throat. Hermione was watching Ron fret over the fate of the Cattermoles, and there was such tenderness in her expression that Harry felt almost as if he had surprised her in the act of kissing him. Wait, what? Okay, I get it now. That sentence just was a bit weirdly structured. I was like, he's surprised? Okay, I get it now. Yeah, she's being really tender with Ron. She's taking care of the sick boy. She's taking real good care of that sick boy. So, have you got it? Harry asked her, partly to remind her that he was there. Got what? She said with a little start. What did we just go through all that for? The locket! Where's the locket? You got it? Shouted Ron, raising himself a little higher in his pillows. No one tells me anything. Blimey! You could have mentioned it. Well, we were running for our lives for the Death Eaters, weren't we? Said Hermione. Here. And she pulled the locket out of the pocket of her robes and handed it to Ron. The locket out of the pocket. It was as large as a chicken's egg. An ornate letter S, inlaid with many small green stones, glinted dully in the diffused light shining through the tent's canvas roof. There isn't any chance someone destroyed it since Creature had it, asked Ron hopefully. I mean, are we sure it's still a Horcrux? I think so, said Hermione, taking it back from him and looking at it closely. There'd be some sign of damage if it had been magically destroyed. She passed it to Harry, who turned it over in his fingers. The thing looked perfect, pristine. He remembered the mangled remains of the diary, and how the stone in the Horcrux ring had been cracked open when Dumbledore destroyed it. I reckon Creature's right, said Harry. We're going to have to work out how to open this thing before we can destroy it. What if they open it up and that sends some kind of signal to Voldemort as to their location or something? Sudden awareness of what he was holding, of what lived behind the little golden doors, hit Harry as he spoke. Even after all their efforts to find it, he felt a violent urge to fling the locket from him. Mastering himself again, he tried to prise the locket apart with his fingers, then attempted to charm Hermione, the charm Hermione had used to open Regulus's bedroom door. Neither worked. He handed the locket back to Ron and Hermione, each of whom did their best, but were no more successful at opening it than he had been. Can you feel it, though? Ron asked in a hushed voice, as he held it tight in his clenched fist. What do you mean? Ron passed the Horcrux to Harry. After a moment or two, Harry thought he knew what Ron meant. Was it his own blood pulsing through his veins that he could feel? Or was it something beating inside the locket like a tiny metal heart? What are we going to do with it? Hermione asked. Keep it safe till we work out how to destroy it, Harry replied. And little though he wanted to, he hung the chain around his own neck. Yikes! Yikes, yikes, yikes. Just gonna put a little piece of Voldemort's soul right next to my own heart. That's a clever choice. I think I'll do it. Dropping the locket out of sight beneath his robes, where it rested against his chest beside the pouch Hagrid had given him. I think we should take it in turns to keep watch outside the tent, he added to Hermione, standing up and stretching. And we'll need to think about some food as well. You stay here, he added sharply, as Ron attempted to sit up and turned a nasty shade of green. With the sneak-o-scope Hermione had given Harry for his birthday set carefully upon the table in the tent, Harry and Hermione spent the rest of the day sharing the role of lookout. However, the sneak-o-scope remained silent and still upon its point all day, and whether because of the protective enchantments and muggle-repelling charms Hermione had spread around them, or because people rarely ventured this way, their patch of wood... Oh, hey, buddy. You know what I just ordered on Amazon for him? Little dog steps. Hey, bud? Because he always wakes me up in the morning because he comes up on the side of the bed and goes, because he wants to get on the bed with me. He wakes me up all the time. So I'm gonna put little steps down, dog steps, right next to the bed. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Okay. Harry lit his wand as he swapped places with Hermione at 10 o'clock. And looked... Some color to it, how about that? And looked out upon a deserted scene, noting the bats fluttering high above him across the single patch of starry sky visible from their protected clearing. He felt hungry now, and a little lightheaded. Hermione had not packed any food in her magical bag, as she had assumed that they would be returning to Grimmauld Place that night, so they had nothing to eat, except some wild mushrooms that Hermione had collected from amongst the nearest trees and stewed in a billy can. After a couple of mouthfuls, Ron had pushed his portion away, looking queasy. Harry had only persevered so as to not Hermione's feelings. I mean, it's not like she cooked a whole meal for them. She collected some wild mushrooms. Their surrounding silence was broken by odd rustlings and what sounded like cracking of twigs. Harry thought that they were caused by animals rather than people, yet he kept his wand held tight at the ready, his insides already uncomfortable due to their inadequate helping of rubbery mushrooms, tingled with unease. Big guy, small dog! That's funny that you remember that, Julie. He had thought that he would feel elated if they managed to steal back the Horcrux, but somehow he did not. All he felt as he sat looking out at the darkness, of which his wand lit only a tiny part, was worry about what would happen next. It was as though he had been hurtling towards this point for weeks, months, maybe even years, but now he had come to an abrupt halt, run out of road. There were other Horcruxes out there somewhere, but he did not have the faintest idea where they could be. He did not even know what all of them were. Meanwhile, he was at a loss to know how to destroy the only one that they had found, the Horcrux that currently lay against the bare flesh of his chest. Curiously, it had not taken heat from his body, but lay so cold against his skin, it might just have emerged from icy water. From time to time, Harry thought, or perhaps imagined, that he could feel the tiny heartbeat ticking irregularly alongside his own. Why would you put it right there? I don't know. I don't know how magic really works, but I just feel like that would be a bad choice. To put it right here in the middle of your, what's it called? Id? No, is that your id? Is ego, id, and something else? Or is id your mind? I can't remember anymore. Who cares? But it feels like a bad choice. It feels like a bad choice to me. Nameless forebodings crept up on him as he sat there in the dark. He tried to resist them, push them away, yet they came at him relentlessly. Neither can live while the other survives. Ron and Hermione, now talking softly behind him in the tent, could walk away if they wanted to. He could not. And it seemed to Harry, as he sat there trying to master his own fear and exhaustion, that the Horcrux against his chest was ticking away the time he had left. Oh, stupid idea, he told himself. Don't think that. His scar was starting to prickle again. He was afraid that he was making it happen by having these thoughts, and tried to direct them into another channel. He thought of poor creature who had expected them home and had received Yaxley instead. Would the elf keep silent, or would he tell the Death Eater everything he knew? Harry wanted to believe that creature had changed towards him in the past month, that he would be loyal now, but who knew what would happen? What if the Death Eaters tortured the elf? Sick images swarmed into Harry's head, and he tried to push these away too, for there was nothing he could do for creature. He and Hermione had already decided against trying to summon him. What if someone from the Ministry came too? They could not count on elfish apparition being free from the same flaw that had taken Yaxley to Grimmauld Place on the hem of Hermione's sleeve. Harry's scar was burning now. Yeah, the scores to these, I mean, these are just such good scores. I can't wait to see, what scenes they accompany, because I don't know. Harry's scar was burning now. He thought that there was so much that they did not know. He's working himself up into a tiff, isn't he? Lupin had been right about magic that they had never encountered or imagined. Why hadn't Dumbledore explained more? Had he thought that there would be time, that he would live for years, for centuries, perhaps, like his friend Nicholas Flamel? If so, he had been wrong. Snape had seen to that. Snape, the sleeping snake, who had struck at the top of the tower. And Dumbledore had fallen. Fallen.
Give it to me, Gregorovitch!
Harry's voice was high, clear, and cold. Oh, damn! His wand held in front of him by a long-fingered white hand. The man at whom he was pointing was suspended upside down in midair. Oh, what a twist! I didn't expect this at all. Though there were no ropes holding him, he swung there, invisibly and eerily bound, his limbs wrapped around him, his terrified face on a level with Harry's, ruddy due to the blood that had rushed to his head. He had pure white hair and a thick, bushy beard. Can you give me some adjectives for Gregorovitch, please? Because I don't think I remember his voice. Please give me some adjectives for Gregorovitch. And that sounds Russian to me, right? Sounds like it's a Russian name. He had pure white hair and a thick, bushy beard. A trussed-up Father Christmas. Huh. Oh, man. Old. Thank you. Gorovitch. That's not a German name. He's Bulgarian. Bulgarian. All we know is Bulgarian. Same country as Krum. Old Eastern European. Something like this. Okay. But old like Father Christmas. There, old. Like Father Christmas. Okay. I have it no more. It was many years ago stolen from me.
Do not lie to Lord Voldemort, Gregorovitch. He knows. He always knows.
The hanging man's pupils were wide, dilated with fear, and they seemed to swell, bigger and bigger, until their blackness swallowed Harry whole. And now Harry was hurrying along a dark corridor in stout little Gregorovitch's wake as he held a lantern aloft. Gregorovitch burst into the room at the end of the passage, and his lantern illuminated what looked like a workshop. Wood shavings and gold gleamed in the swinging pool of light, and there on the window ledge sat perched, like a giant bird, a young man with golden hair. In the split second that the lantern's light illuminated him, Harry saw the delight upon his handsome face. Then the intruder shot a stunning spell from his wand and jumped neatly backwards out of the window with a crow of laughter. What the hell? I think his voice is a bit weaker and raspier. Okay, and Harry was hurtling back out of those wide, tunnel-like pupils, and Gregorovitch's face was stricken with terror. Okay, wait 1 second. So, Voldemort went into his memories. Oh, okay, yeah, because this is possible in the magical world, and they did it before with Snape and with everybody. Yeah, okay. I just kind of forgot, and I was like, what the hell is happening? Okay, they went into a memory about this golden child with golden cackling hair that sounds like a crow. Okay.
Who was the thief, Gregorovitch?
Said the high, cold voice.
I do not know. Young, deeper, and raspier. I do not know. I never knew. A young man. No, please, please.
A scream that went on, and then a burst of green light. Harry! He opened his eyes, panting, his forehead throbbing. He had been passed out against the side of the tent, had slid sideways down the canvas, and was sprawled on the ground. He looked up at Hermione, whose bushy hair obscured the tiny patch of sky visible through the dark branches high above them. Dream, he said, sitting up quickly and attempting to meet Hermione's glower with a look of innocence. Must have dozed off. Sorry. I know it was your scar. I can tell by the look on your face. You were looking into Vol... Don't say his name, came Ron's angry voice from the depths of the tent. Fine, retorted Hermione. You know whose mind then. I didn't mean it to happen, Harry said. It was a dream. Can you control what you dream about, Hermione? If you just learn to apply occlumency. But Harry was not interested in being told off. He wanted to discuss what he had just seen. He's found Grigorovich, Hermione. And I think he killed him. But before he killed him, he read Grigorovich's mind, and I think I'd better take over the watch. If you're so tired you're falling asleep, said Hermione coldly. I can finish the watch. No. You're obviously exhausted. Go and lie down. She dropped down in the mouth of the tent, looking stubborn. Angry, but wishing to avoid a row, Harry ducked back inside. Ron's still pale face was poking out from the lower bunk. Harry climbed into the one above him, lay down, and looked up at the dark canvas ceiling. After several moments, Ron spoke in a voice so low that it would not carry to Hermione, huddled in the entrance. What's you-know-who doing? Harry screwed up his eyes in the effort to remember every detail, then whispered into the darkness. He found Grigorovich. He had him tied up. He was torturing him. How's Grigorovich supposed to make him a new wand if he's tied up? I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Harry closed his eyes, thinking of all he had seen and heard. The more he recalled, the less sense it made. Voldemort had said nothing about Harry's wand, nothing about the twin cores, nothing about Grigorovich making a new and powerful wand to beat Harry's. He wanted something from Grigorovich. Just so I'm clear on this, gosh, so much is going on. I know Grigorovich is a wand maker. He's the one who made Harry's wand, right? Just want to clarify that, because I'm thinking that's what's going on for me, but I just want to make sure. No, okay. Who is Grigorovich again? I completely forget. I'm going to wait for Lois, our mod, to summarize it before I read some spoilers that could possibly pop up. He wanted something from Grigorovich, Harry said, eyes still closed tight. He asked him to hand it over, but Grigorovich said it had been stolen from him. And then he remembered how he, as Voldemort, had seemed to hurtle through Grigorovich's eyes into his memories. He read Grigorovich's mind, and I saw this young bloke perched on a windowsill, and he fired a curse at Grigorovich and jumped out of sight. He stole it. He stole whatever you-know-who's after, and I think I've seen him somewhere. Harry wished he could have another glimpse of the laughing boy's face. The theft had happened many years ago, according to Grigorovich. Why did the young thief look familiar? Golden hair. Grigorovich made Crumb's wand. Right, why does he want Grigorovich? And Crumb was also at the wedding. What is going on? There's some connection there. Okay. Who could this boy be? Who could the boy be? What if it's Malfoy? What if it's Malfoy when he's younger? He's got like that blonde hair. Not Draco. Lucius Malfoy. Maybe it's Lucius. Harry wished he could have another glimpse of the laughing boy's face. The theft had happened many years ago, according to Grigorovich. Why did the young thief look familiar? The noises of the surrounding woods were muffled inside the tent. All Harry could hear was Ron's breathing. After a while, Ron whispered, "Couldn't you see what the thief was holding?" No, it must have been something small. Harry! The wooden slats of Ron's bank... Oh, no, that's Ron. Ron's bunk creaked as he repositioned himself in bed. Harry, you don't reckon you-know-who's after something else had turned into a Horcrux? I don't know, said Harry slowly. Maybe. But wouldn't it be dangerous for him to make another one? Didn't Hermione say he had pushed his soul to the limit already? Yeah, but maybe he doesn't know that. Yeah, maybe, said Harry. Okay, I have a wild theory. I have a wild premonition.
Idiot. It's time for John's premonition.
What if, when Voldemort zapped or tried to kill Harry, somehow during all of that what happened, what if a piece of Harry's soul is somewhere? What if somehow he got, I don't know, Horcruxed or something like that? I don't know if you have to say yes. And don't tell me if yes or no. I don't want to know if this is a correct premonition or not. Please don't tell me. But what if, I don't know if you have to be willing to give away part of yourself or something? But what if a part of Harry is somewhere and Voldemort knows this and he's searching for it? And then in the final battle, Harry has destroyed all the Horcruxes, destroys Voldemort, and then revives himself through this separate Horcrux of him. What if? So, thinking that, I'm not even reading the chat right now, because I don't want people to affirm or dissuade from this. So, Lois, you get rid of those so I can read the chat again. Thank you. Where are we? He had been sure that Voldemort had been looking for a way around the problem of the twin cores. Sure that Voldemort sought a solution from the old wand maker. And yet, he had killed him, apparently without asking him a single question about wand lore. What was Voldemort trying to find? Why, with the Ministry of Magic and the wizarding world at his feet, was he far away, intent on the pursuit of an object that Grigorovich had once owned, and which had been stolen by the unknown thief? Harry could still see the blonde-haired youth's face. It was merry, wild. There was a Fred and Georgish air of triumphant trickery. Nah, it's not Lucius. About him. He had soared from the windowsill like a bird. And Harry had seen him before, but he could not think where. With Grigorovich dead, it was the merry-faced thief who was in danger now, and it was on him that Harry's thoughts dwelled, as Ron's snores began to rumble from the lower bank, and as he himself drifted slowly into sleep once more. End of the chapter. Oh, interesting. Who could this long-haired golden child be? Bit late, but John, didn't you predict that the trio would break into the Ministry when you started Deathly Hallows? I think I did, didn't I? Who could this golden-haired being be? I'm trying to break my head. Here. Voldemort? I mean, Dumbledore? No. Merry and cackling like a crow? I don't think that would be Dumbledore. And why would he steal something from Grigorovich? Now that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I do not know. Chapter 15. The Goblin's Revenge. Early next morning. Before the other two were awake, Harry left the tent to search the woods around them for the oldest, most gnarled, and resilient-looking tree he could find. There, in its shadow, he buried Mad-Eye Moody's eye, and marked the spot by gouging a small cross in the bark with his wand. It was not much, but Harry felt that Mad-Eye would have much preferred this to being stuck on Dolores Umbridge's door. That's good. Then he returned to the tent to wait for the others to wake, and discuss what they were going to do next. It's Cody. Where is it? I don't know where I put Cody for now. I'll figure it out next time. Harry and Hermione felt that it was best not to stay anywhere too long, and Ron agreed, with a sole proviso? I don't know what that their next move took them within reach of a bacon sandwich. Hermione therefore removed the enchantments she had placed around the clearing, while Harry and Ron obliterated all the marks and impressions on the ground that might show they had camped there. Then they disapparated to the outskirts of a small market town. I still don't know how they were found right out after apparating outside of the wedding. Or did we find that out? Did Lupio mention that? No, I don't think we found that out. Did we? So they could still possibly be tracked. Once they had pitched the tent in the shelter of a small copse of trees and surrounded it with freshly cast defensive enchantments, Harry ventured out under the invisibility cloak to find sustenance. This, however, did not go as planned. He had barely entered the town when an unnatural chill, a descending mist, and a sudden darkening of the skies made him freeze where he stood. "But you can make a brilliant Patronus," protested Ron, when Harry arrived back at the tent empty-handed, out of breath, and mouthed the single word, "Dementors." "I couldn't make one," he panted, clutching the stitch on his side. "Wouldn't come." Their expression of consternation and disappointment made Harry feel ashamed. It had been a nightmarish experience, seeing the Dementors gliding out of the mist in the distance and realizing, oh, this is crazy. They know they're around there somewhere. Gliding out of the mist in the distance and realizing, as the paralyzing cold choked his lungs and a distant scream filled his ears, that he was not going to be able to protect himself. It had taken all Harry's willpower to uproot himself from the spot and run, leaving the eyeless Dementors to glide amongst the Muggles who might not be able to see them, but would assuredly feel the despair they cast wherever they went. So we still haven't got any food. Well, okay, well, it's not a creepy moment now anymore. I just thought we'd be heading into that. "Shut up, Ron," snapped Hermione. "Harry, what happened? Why do you think you couldn't make your Patronus? You managed perfectly yesterday." I don't know." He sat low in one of Perkins' old armchairs, feeling more humiliated by the moment. He was afraid that something had gone wrong inside him. Yesterday seemed a long time ago. Today he might have been 13 years old again, the only one who collapsed on the Hogwarts Express. Ron kicked a chair leg. What? He snarled at Hermione. "I'm starving. All I've had since I bled half to death is a couple of toadstools." He would be the most grumpiest about not eating. He's always eating. "You go and fight your way through the Dementors then," said Harry, stung. "I would, but my arm's in a sling, in case you haven't noticed." "That's convenient." "And what's that supposed to—" "Of course!" cried Hermione, clapping a hand to her forehead and startling both of them into silence. "Harry, give me the locket." "Come on," she said impatiently, clicking her fingers at him when he did not react. "The Horcrux, Harry! You're still wearing it!" She held out her hands, and Harry lifted the golden chain over his head. The moment it parted contact with Harry's skin, he felt free and oddly light. "Yeah, it's because you're wearing it close to your heart, Harry." He had not even realized that he was clammy, or that there was a heavy weight pressing on his stomach, until both sensations lifted. "Better?" asked Hermione. "Yeah, loads better." "Harry," she said, crouching down in front of him, and using the kind of voice he associated with visiting the very sick. "You don't think you've been possessed, do you?" "What? No," he said defensively. "I remember everything we've done while I've been wearing it. I wouldn't know what I've done if I'd been possessed, would I? Ginny told me there were times when she couldn't remember anything." Said Hermione, looking down at the heavy locket. "Well, maybe we ought to not wear it. We can just keep it in the tent. We are not leaving that Horcrux lying around," Harry stated firmly. "If we lose it, if it gets stolen—" "Oh, all right," said Hermione, and she placed it around her own neck and tucked it out of sight down the front of her shirt. "Why around the neck?" "But we'll take turns wearing it, so nobody keeps it on too long." "Great," said Ron irritably. "Now we've sorted that out, can we please get some food?" "Fine, but we'll go somewhere else to find it," said Hermione, with half a glance at Harry. "So, John, who would be in your Horcrux hunting party?" Sorry if this is a question that was asked already. I have to ask now or forget it. Wait, Horcrux hunting party. You mean characters out of the book? Or out of my life? I'll answer it when you answer that. What's your actual question there? In the end, they settled down for the night in a far-flung field belonging to a lonely farm. Far-flung field farm, from which they had managed to obtain eggs and bread. It's not stealing, is it? Asked. Oh, what the heck is that? What just happened? Oh, I accidentally did the Zoom guest thing. Both. Who would I have in my hunting party? It would be definitely Hermione. She would always be there. She's indispensable. That woman. Hermione and Dumbledore. Straight up, those two. Hermione and Dumbledore. In the end, they settled down for the night in a far-flung field lonely farm from which they had managed to obtain eggs and bread. It's not stealing, is it? Asked Hermione in a troubled voice, as they devoured scrambled eggs on toast. Not if I left some money under the chicken coop. Ron rolled his eyes and said, with his cheeks bulging, Hermione, you worry too much. Relax. And indeed, it was much easier to relax when they were comfortably well fed. The argument about the Dementors was forgotten in laughter that night, and Harry felt cheerful, even hopeful, as he took the first of the 3 night watches. This was their first encounter with the fact that a full stomach meant good spirits. An empty one, bickering and gloom. It's always true. It's always true. Harry was the least surprised by this, because he had suffered periods of near starvation at the Dursleys. Hermione bore up reasonably well on those nights when they managed to scavenge nothing but berries or stale biscuits. Her temper... They're like living in the forest, scrounging, stealing. What a life. Her temper perhaps a little shorter than usual, and her silences rather dour. Ron, however, had always been used to 3 delicious meals a day, courtesy of his mother or of the Hogwarts house elves, and hunger made him both unreasonable and irascible. What does that mean, irascible? Whenever lack of food coincided with Ron's turn to wear the Horcrux, he became downright unpleasant. So, where next? Was his constant refrain. He did not seem to have any ideas himself, but expected Harry and Hermione to come up with plans while he sat and brooded over the low food supplies. Accordingly, Harry and Hermione spent fruitless hours trying to decide where they might find the other Horcruxes, and how to destroy the one they had already got. Their conversations became increasingly repetitive, as they had no new information. Sounds a bit like they're quarantining. In the forest. We can only spend time with each other. Don't go out into public. That's their inner the inner circle, the 2 people that they're living with. They start infighting. Where do we get our food from next? What's next? As Dumbledore had told Harry that he believed Voldemort had hidden the Horcruxes in places important to him, they kept reciting in a sort of dreary litany those locations they knew that Voldemort had lived in or visited. The orphanage where they had been born and raised, Hogwarts where they had been educated, Borgin and Berks where he had worked after leaving school, then Albania where he'd spent his years of exile. These formed the basis of their speculations.
John's voice is dry. He needs to moisten it with some water.
Now that's better. Yeah, let's go to Albania. Shouldn't take more than an afternoon to search an entire country, said Ron sarcastically. There can't be anything there. He's already made 5 of his Horcruxes before he went into exile, and Dumbledore was certain the snake is the 6th, said Hermione. We know the snake's not in Albania. It's usually with Didn't I ask you to stop saying that? Fine. The snake is usually with you-know-who. Happy? Not particularly. I can't see him hiding anything at Borgin and Berks, said Harry, who made this point many times before, but said it again simply to break the nasty silence. Borgin and Berks were experts on dark objects. They would have recognized a Horcrux straight away. Ron yawned pointedly. Repressing a strong urge to throw something at him, Harry plowed on. I still reckon he might have hidden something at Hogwarts. Hermione sighed. But Dumbledore would have found it, Harry. Wait, is this chapter called The Thief? Somebody just going to turn up and steal the locket? Oh, I swear if that happens. Don't tell me if it does, but I swear if that happens. Hermione sighed. But Dumbledore would have found it, Harry. Harry repeated the argument he kept bringing out in favor of this theory. Dumbledore said in front of me that he never assumed he knew all of Hogwarts' secrets. I'm telling you, if there was one place Oi! You know who, then? Harry shouted, goaded past endurance. If there was one place that was really important to you know who, it was Hogwarts. Oh, come on, scoffed Ron. His school? Yeah, his school. It was his first real home, the place that meant he was special. It meant everything to him, and even after he left... This is you-know-who we're talking, right? Not you, inquired Ron. He was tugging at the chain of the Horcrux around his neck. The One Ring! Harry was visited by a desire to seize it and throttle him. You told us you know who asked Dumbledore to give him a job after he left, said Hermione. That's right, said Harry. And Dumbledore thought he only wanted to come back and try to find something. Probably another Founder's object to make it into another Horcrux. Yeah? Said Harry. But he didn't get the job, did he? Said Hermione. So he never got the chance to find a Founder's object there and hide it in the school. Okay then, said Harry, defeated. Forget Hogwarts. Without any other leads, they travelled into London. Oh, okay. Just suddenly, let's go to London. Without any other leads, they travelled into London, and hidden beneath the invisibility cloak, searched for the orphanage in which Voldemort had been raised. Hermione stole into a library and discovered from their records that the place had been demolished many years before. They visited its site and found a tower block of offices. We could try digging in the foundations, Hermione suggested half-heartedly. He wouldn't have hidden a Horcrux there, Harry said. He had known it all along. The orphanage had been the place Voldemort had been determined to escape from. 1 second, I'm just going to check something. Crazy, they're going to the orphanage. And they're going into the middle of London. Kind of risky, but I mean, what else are you going to do? Just eat berries for the rest of their lives in the forest? They really are on their own. It's crazy. The orphanage had been the place where Voldemort had been determined to escape from. He would never have hidden a part of his soul there. Dumbledore had shown Harry that Voldemort sought grandeur or mystique in his hiding places. This dismal, grey corner of London was as far removed as you could imagine from Hogwarts, or the Ministry, or a building like Gringotts, the Wizarding Bank with its golden doors and marble floors. Even without any new ideas, they continued to move through the countryside, pitching the tent in a different place each night for security. Every morning they made sure that they had removed all clues to their presence, then set off to find another lonely and secluded spot, traveling by apparition to more woods, to the shadowy crevices of cliffs, to purple moors, gorse-covered mountainsides, and once a sheltered and pebbly cove. Every 12 hours or so, they passed the Horcrux between them as though they were playing some perverse, slow-motion game of pass the parcel, where they dreaded the music stopping because the reward was 12 hours of increased fear and anxiety. Harry's scar kept prickling. It happened most often, he noticed, when he was wearing the Horcrux. Sometimes he could not stop himself reacting to the pain. What? What did you see? Demanded Ron, whenever he noticed Harry wince. A face, muttered Harry every time. Same face. The thief who stole from Grigorovich. Okay. I didn't do a premonition. I was just wondering, okay? Chapter title changed to Goblin's Revenge. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Thomas Roy. And Ron would turn away, making no effort to hide his disappointment. Harry knew that Ron was hoping to hear news of his family or the rest of the Order of the Phoenix, but after all, Harry, was not a television aerial. He could only see what Voldemort was thinking at the time, not tune into whatever took his fancy. Apparently, Voldemort was dwelling endlessly on the unknown youth with the gleeful face, whose name and whereabouts Harry felt unsure. Voldemort knew no better than he did. As Harry's scar continued to burn and the merry, blonde-haired boy swam tantalizingly in his memory, he learned to suppress any sign of pain or discomfort, for the other two showed nothing but impatience at the mention of the thief. He could not entirely blame them when they were so desperate for a lead on the Horcruxes. As the days stretched into weeks, Harry began to suspect that Ron and Hermione were having conversations without and about him. Several times they stopped talking abruptly when Harry entered the tent, and twice he came accidentally upon them, huddled a little distance away, heads together and talking fast. Both times they fell silent when they realized he was approaching them and hastened to appear busy collecting wood or water. Harry could not help wondering whether they had only agreed to come on what now felt like a pointless and rambling journey because they thought he had some secret plan that they would learn in due course. Ron was making no effort to hide his bad mood, and Harry was starting to fear that Hermione too was disappointed by his poor leadership. In desperation, he tried to think of further Horcrux locations, but the only one that continued to occur was Hogwarts. And as neither of the others thought this at all likely, he stopped suggesting it. He's probably right, though. He's probably right. Autumn rolled over the countryside as they moved through it. They were now pitching the tent on mulches of fallen leaves. Natural mists joined those cast by the Dementors. Wind and rain added to their troubles. The fact that Hermione was getting better at identifying edible fungi could not altogether compensate for their continuing isolation. The lack of other people's company, or their total ignorance of what was going on in the war against Voldemort. What a... My mother, said Ron one night, as they sat in the tent on a riverbank in Wales, can make good food appear out of thin air. Oh. He prodded moodily at the lumps of charred grey fish on his plate. Harry glanced automatically at Ron's neck and saw, as he expected, the golden chain of the Horcrux glinting there. He managed to fight down the impulse to swear at Ron, whose attitude would, he knew, improve slightly when the time came to take off the locket. Your mother can't produce food out of thin air, said Hermione. No one can. Food is the first of the 5 principal exceptions to Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration. Oh, speak English, can't you? Ron said, prizing a fishbone out from between his teeth. It's impossible to make good food out of nothing. You can summon it if you know where it is. You can transform it. You can increase the quantity if you already got some. Well, don't bother increasing this. It's disgusting, said Ron. It's one of those times again where I kind of dislike Ron. Harry caught the fish, and I did my best with it. I notice I'm always the one who ends up sorting out the food because I'm a girl, I suppose. No, it's because you're supposed to be the best at magic, shot back Ron. Hermione jumped up and bits of roast pike slid off her tin plate onto the floor. You can do the cooking tomorrow, Ron. You can find the ingredients and try and charm them into something worth eating. And I'll sit here and pull faces and moan, and you can see how you... Shut up, said Harry, leaping to his feet and holding up both hands. Shut up now! Hermione looked outraged. How can you side with him? He hardly ever does the cooking. Hermione, be quiet. I can hear someone. Okay, first of all, totally on Hermione's side there. You do not get to get the mushrooms or get the food. You do not get to not cook the food, and you do not get to then complain about it. Shut the hell up, Ron. Shut the hell up. Zip it and eat your damn food. Okay, so somebody's there. Somebody is there. We are at 7. feel like there's going to be a completely new scene here, and I need to run. I can't read very long. I'm going to end on this cliffhanger. Sorry, but I feel like this will go on for a while if I leap into this. There's going to be somebody, presumably this goblin that it's named after. Okay. So, this has been is a very busy time coming up for me. So, tomorrow and Friday I'm not reading because I'm going to be doing a play. I will be posting about the play on my Instagram and also on Discord. So if you're interested in seeing me act and do something different, check it out. But that's happening for the next little while. I will be back on Tuesday. So I know it's somewhat of a bigger break, but unfortunately I don't have time before then. Lots going on. So I will be back on Tuesday. Ferenzia Spoking, please keep going. Sure Hermione has a book on it, Tom. Good luck with your play, John. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing some things that give you joy and that give others joy. Please do remember that you are loved, you have value, you have meaning, and take care of yourself, please. All right. I will see you all on Tuesday. I'll be back on Tuesday, 6 p.m. PST. All right. Much love. Bye-bye.